Hi everybody, so it is Easter Monday and the weather's turned rubbish again after that beautiful weather we've had for the last few days. It's quite cold outside, and so I'm making a toffee apple crumble for a pudding for this evening, and I thought I'd share this recipe with you. It is very simple to make. I think apple crumble is just one of those ultimate comfort desserts, and I love it with blackberries and apples. I like plums and apples. I like cherry and apple. And I like rhubarb crumble. I really love a crumble. I think I actually prefer it to a pie. But this one is one that, I can't remember. I saw this on a TV show, a variation of this on a TV show. I'm not sure if it was like Nigella or somebody like that. Anyway, I just genuinely don't remember who I saw make one of these. But I just kind of used my usual apple crumble recipe and just added the toffee in to make a simple version of it. They made their own toffee sauce and everything, but I've kept it really simple. So all you need for this is about just over a kilo of cooking apples. So these are Bramleys, but any good sharp crisp large cooking apple is fine. I've got 6 that weighs about 1.2 kilos, I think, so it should be just enough once I've got them. I'll peel them, core them, and then chop them into chunks. You need some butter. You need 175 grams altogether. You need some toffee sauce, so this can be any kind of toffee ice cream sauce. You could make your own toffee sauce if you really wanted to, but I'm trying to keep this simple. This would again be perhaps a good meal, a good dessert to make with the kids. And if you can't get a toffee sauce, a caramel sauce would be fine. It's that kind of sweet, buttery, sugary sauce that you want, because you're not adding any sugar to the apples, which is what you would normally do when you're making a fill-in for a crumble. Then you're going to want, for the topping, you want some plain flour, some of the butter. You want plain flour, 175 grams of plain flour. You want 125 grams of plain flour for the topping. The other 25 grams you're going to use in with the apples. You want some porridge oats that you'll stir through after you've rubbed the butter in, you'll stir through some porridge oats, 25 grams of porridge oats, and 100 grams of light brown sugar. And then I'm going to use a little bit of ginger today. I do sometimes use cinnamon in the topping, not in the apple piece itself, but just in the topping. So I'm going to use half a teaspoon of ground ginger when I make that up. So I'll get the apples prepared and show you what I'm going to do with those. And then while the apples are cooking, I'll just quickly mix up the topping. And really putting this together only takes about 15 minutes or so, and then it takes about 40 minutes to cook. So you're talking about an hour probably start to finish. And I'm doing this just before I start preparing tea for the evening, so it'll be cooled off and ready to eat by the time we've had our main course for dinner tonight. So let me get going on these apples and I'll come back and show you what I'm doing. Okay, so in there I've got my 6 chopped apples, I've got 25 grams of butter, which I've just cut into small pieces as it's not going to be in the pan for very long, and there's 2 tablespoons of water in there as well. So I've got it on a fairly low heat. You can see my flame under there, but it's a very low heat. I just want it to start to soften the apples. I don't need them to cook all the way through or break all the way down. So I'm going to pop the lid on that and leave that for about 10 minutes just on that low setting, just to cook together. And while that's doing, I'll make the topping. Okay, so the apples have had 10 minutes cooking. Now I know there's a couple of things I do when I make apple crumble that are slightly different to how most people make it. So I do put butter in with my apples. I don't know why, I just always have done. I think my mum did. So it's just a thing I've always done. So if I'm not doing toffee apple crumble, I would put some sugar in there as well, but a little bit of sugar. But the butter, I think, just gives it a nicer texture for a crumble base. As I say, I've just always done it, so I don't really know why, or whether there's some story behind why we've done it that way, but I'm not sure is the answer. But I just wanted to show you before I pour the apples in. This is my pretty little, it'll be a collector's piece now with them going out of business. It's my Laura Ashley pie dish. My sister bought that for me for Christmas one year, and it comes with one of those little, it's like a little bird that you sit in if you're making a pie to give you a vent in the middle of the pie, a little blue bird. But I love this little dish for things like a crumble or a chicken pie even, or something like that, but I tend to use it with the flowers for desserty sort of pies. So I'm going to put the apple in there, and then we'll put the toffee sauce on the top. So let me just put the apple in and then I'll come back. Okay, so the apple is in the dish now. You can see that's just enough apple really for this size of dish. And now I'm going to put the toffee sauce directly on top of the apple. Now don't be stingy here. One, haven't added any sugar to the apple, and two, it's a toffee apple crumble. So it's not an apple crumble with a bit of toffee sauce, it's a toffee apple crumble. So don't be stingy with it. You want to give it a really good coating of the toffee sauce on the top. I certainly wouldn't measure this. I just want a layer of the toffee sauce all over the top of the apples. So I don't know, what's that, probably about 6 or 7 tablespoons. Certainly not a diet friendly dish, but then if you're looking at a recipe that's for a toffee apple crumble, my expectation is not that you'd be looking for something that's particularly healthy or calorie controlled. So strange times we're living in call for desperate measures, and one of them is comfort food like this. So there's the toffee sauce all over the top of the apples. Now I'm going to pour on my crumble mix. So I took 175 grams of flour, plain flour, rubbed through 125 grams of cold butter. You can do that in a processor. I know that the rubbing process can be hard on the hands. I have a pre-arthritic right hand. My mum has quite bad arthritis, and I've got the flags for it, and this hand is particularly the one that bothers me the most, and sometimes I can't even open a door handle with this hand, so it is something I've got to worry about as I get older, but it does mean that for something like rubbing through cold butter can be quite a chore, but I also find something quite comforting in doing that. And today my hand is not too bad, so I was able to get it all rubbed in. If there's a few little chunks of butter, I'm not too worried about it. Once it was all rubbed in, I then added a half a teaspoon of ginger powder and 25 grams of porridge oats to the mixture, just to give it a little bit of a kick with the ginger, and also a little crunch with the porridge oats. Now you will notice, again, this is the other thing I do differently. I don't have any sugar in there either. My sugar is here, brown sugar, and I'm going to sprinkle that over the top. That gives a nice crispy crunch on the top of your crumble, and I just like it better that way. I find if I work it into the crumble mixture, then it tends to all get combined, and the crumble can be a bit soggy, whereas this gives me a nice crisp topping. So I'm going to put the crumble mixture on top of the apples and toffee, and then sprinkle the brown sugar, and I've got about 100 grams there, probably just less than 100 grams of brown sugar there to sprinkle over the top. So it's the same amount as I would have used if I'd combined it in with the flour, but I may not use all of it. I'll just sprinkle it over the top, a bit like the toffee sauce. It's a non-measured piece of this recipe. So let me start putting or get the crumble mixture on top, and then the sugar, and then I'll come back and show you just before I put it in the oven. So yeah, there you go, that's ready to go into the oven. It's got the layer of the crumble mixture. Now just be careful when you put the crumble mixture on the top, because the toffee sauce will have a tendency to want to push out the sides. So I've started at the edges and put a layer around the edges and then worked in to try and stop that from happening. I know it will bubble out a bit while it cooks, but I've tried my best to make sure it doesn't bubble too much. We shall see when it comes out of the oven, although with a crumble, with a pie it's a bit different. With a crumble I'm really not bothered. I want the toffiness to come up out the sides and sit along the edges. That's what you want to happen with a crumble. And then it's got a layer of the brown sugar on the top. It's just a thin layer, but it is all over. And that will, as that sugar melts, it will go into the crumbly mixture, but it will also give us a nice crispy top. So I've got the oven fairly low. I've got it on 160 fan, which is about 180 Celsius. And I will pop it in there probably for about 40 minutes and then check it. It might take another 10 minutes, but you want to check it after 40 minutes just to make sure that top isn't getting too browned, with it just being sugar on the very top. So pop it in the oven and we'll come back and take a look when it comes out. So, excuse the noise in the background, I've got the active fryer going, but there is our finished toffee apple crumble. You can see the toffee sauce has just bubbled. It didn't actually spill over, which was quite good. but the top is nice and crispy with that sugary topping, and we will enjoy that with, I've got cream in the fridge, I've got custard I could make up. I don't think we have any ice cream, which is Tony's favourite way of having apple pie or apple crumble. But really looking forward to tucking into some of this after our dinner tonight. When I plate it up, when I take some out, I will show you the finished inside as well as the finished outside. Hi everybody, so we've just finished dinner and I've just served up a portion of the crumble. You can see in there the toffee layer along with the crumbly top, the sugary outer top, and the nice appley stewed apples underneath. So looks really tasty. Looking forward to having this for my Monday evening dessert, and that will last us a couple of days for dessert. Caleb doesn't really like dessert, he just has ice cream or yogurt usually, so Tony and I will dip into this over the next couple of days.